All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Black Power Hour special edition, Black Business Matters portion. I'm here today with my business partner and my cousin, my friend. He has a very serious matter that he needs help with, and we're reaching out to you today to discuss his situation with his children. His name is Dakari Urquhart, and he's wanting to tell you what has happened to his children. This is something that's been going on in the Black community. They are separating families. They are tearing families apart. They are destroying the moral fiber which this country has been sustained on, and that's families and legacies. So I'm gonna let him, without giving too much up front, because I've been right in the forefront with him. And again, you can share this story, share this live. This is justice for the Urquhart family and everything. So we need more viewers. We need more attention. We need more help and bring more awareness to this issue that's going on in the Black community. Okay, this is a community-based program. Again, we got little Nana in the back. We don't want you to forget about the violence in the streets here in Washington, D.C., as well as the other atrocities that are being done to the citizens here in Ward 8 and the families here in Ward 8. So without further ado, Mr. Earcart, you want to share your story and tell us about your beautiful children, starting with the oldest to the youngest. So
Can you hear me?
what's your kids' names?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, my first child's name, from the oldest to the youngest, his name is Zaid, and then I have another son named Akil, and then I have another son. I mean, another daughter, beautiful daughter named Asia.
Arcia, Zayd,
Asia,
and Akil.
yeah, Asia, Akil, and Zaid.
Arcia, Akil, and Zayd. Okay, can without going too further into details, just give us a rundown of what happened and what year did this all happen with your family being separated. So.
Well, it all happened. It all happened when their mom was placed in the hospital. She went to the hospital
Mm,
for medical treatment, and then from there, um, I went to go pick them up from shelter care because they couldn't stay with their mom. And so that's where it all began. And they just refused to release them to me, even though I had to create housing, income, etc. It was just one thing after another, like DNA test, get a DNA test. Um, then from DNA test doesn't get turned in class, and then we don't know who you are, and then it's like it's just a downhill scenario. It's just totally a violation of my civil rights and my children's civil rights.
okay, so it's important for the people to understand that during this separation from him and his children, the mother was in the shelter here in Washington D.C. Can you give us a little bit of background on that first, and then we'll go forward with your journey that you've been on, because the children were not with you. You were not in the shelter with them, and just let them know that you had your own address and you was able to take full custody of your kids, and
Right,
go from there. Okay, so
right,
that's
yeah. So I
important.
had my own address.
Mm.
I was able to. I had my own address. Each one of my children had their own living space, their own room, etc. Also, um, I would say that the mother was in shelter care because she wanted to try to get to a housing program that she felt
Mhm.
was best for her in order for her to get a voucher. Because I don't know if anybody's not familiar with DC. The housing situation in DC is one that's so yeah. If you enter a program, then you get expedited vouchers. So we had went through a separation, and we were no longer together. And she had planned to go to her mom's house. And so instead of
Mm,
going to her mom's house, she said she was going to enter this rapid rehousing program where she could get a voucher in about 3 months. And so I was like, no, I want to take the kids and whatever the case may be. But she assured me she would be safe. It was 3 months. She'd have her own space. And then from there, it would be, everything would be everything. So while she was in that program, I was still, taking care of the children every other day, every day sometimes. It depends on what the week was like. But I travel back and forth to New York doing business. But other than that, I was every day with the kids, and then they would go back or whatever the case may be. So it was no problem with that. But
mm,
from there, she contacted CPS and whatever the case may be, and I guess
mm.
from there, that's
So it, in other words, it was an incident that occurred not on your time, but with the mother, right? Where she
right.
needed medical attention and she was in the hospital. And instead of them contacting you as the next of kin, parenting, they put your children in the foster care, right?
Absolutely, that's absolutely
Okay.
correct. And like, at no
Even though
point
you
was I
have a
contacted.
home, Miss, make clear you have a home. The children have their own rooms. The
Absolutely,
children are safe. The children are educated. The children are fine.
right.
But they took it upon themselves to, because she was in the shelter program. Instead of contacting their biological father, they put the children into the foster system.
Yes,
Right?
yes. They took
Okay.
the kids and put them the kids into foster care without contacting me at all. Not at any point during any report was I contacted to let me know what was going on, what
Mm-hmm.
concerns they may have had, anything like that. And at all times, the kids had their own room. I took care of the kids since they were born. The kids had adequate living space. I'm an entrepreneur. I make adequate adequate income. So income and living space was not an issue and have not been an issue. Um, it's just when we went to shelter care, I guess it's almost as if it's a crime just to be a black father that wants to actually step up and take care of their children. That became the
Right.
problem.
So, in any event, all over the world, situations like this are happening to black fathers where the mothers are not available to take care of the children, but the fathers are equipped to be parents, but the state is treating the fathers like they're non-existent. I would say, they're
Like
not
we
being
criminals. It's
fair.
almost
So
they
what
treating us
what
like we criminals. It's like
yeah,
the
like
more I
you're
think about it,
criminals.
it's
I
like
didn't want to
almost
say
as if I
that.
was in. I should have. It's like I might as well have been in jail in a federal prison somewhere, and even they would have had probably had more access to their children than I have been allowed to have access to my children. So
Right.
instead of the children having conditions of release, which is required by the law, so the state and local law in DC requires that, but it's just the person that was involved in my case in particular did not play by the rules, and that's what made me go file a federal lawsuit for civil rights violations, and that's what we in the process of doing now.
Okay. So what things have the state asked you? This is the Washington D.C. the government, right?
Right?
Uh, this is called what, the DHS, Department of Human Services,
No, no, no. It's not a department. It's CFS. It's the CFSA.
Children and Family
Yeah.
Services. Okay. So, what things have they asked you to comply with and to do? Mind you, Mr. Urquhart, these kids were not neglected. They weren't unhoused. They had a home. The mother chose to go into the shelter program. He has a home. He has continued to have a home and a location for these children. Okay, there's no abuse. There is no anything like that. But what have they asked you to do in order to gain custody of your children?
Well,
So, what
first
type of things have
we gotta
they asked?
start back from the beginning. Like what happened was that when the mother went to the hospital to receive care, the next day I was informed by the grandmother that somebody needed to go pick up the children. Upon going to pick up the children at court, then what happened next was that I wasn't treated with any type of respect. I wasn't treated as if a normal parent would normally be treated. What happened with me is that I came to the court, and then I was told to wait, and I heard the show cause hearing where they explained why the children was taken in care, what they did in order to help the children, etc., which I had no objections to because apparently the children couldn't stay in the hospital, which I
Right.
agree. I would have been there and got them from the hospital if I had known the children was at the hospital. So what happened was when I went to the court, um, they let me know why the children was in care. At that hearing, they had said that they found probable cause to show why the government took children into care. And so at
Mm-hmm.
that conclusion of that hearing, that's when I had a conversation with the judge. And the court hearing was over. They found probable cause, in which like I said, I didn't object to them having to put the children in emergency care because the mother was receiving medical treatment. I just object to the fact that no one contacted me whatsoever, and I had to find out on my own, and I had to make my way to the courthouse. And so when I made my way to the courthouse and I say I'm the father, I'm here, they found they found probable cause to keep the children, or that they why the children was in care, which I had no objection to. And at the end of that hearing, I told the judge that what did that mean? When can I find my kids? Because I thought the children was gonna be there, ready for me to pick them up, ready to go home. And so when I didn't see the kids, and I was saying, "Hey, where my kids at?" Well, that's when he had told me, "Hey, you need to go across the hall because that's where the hearing where you determine if the kids or whatever gonna or whatever the case may be, what happens next." So upon me and him having a conversation, a lady had interrupted and said, "Okay, Mr. Urquhart, you know you shouldn't have a conversation at this point." And I politely interjected. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, we had two adults having a conversation. You need to politely excuse yourself out of our conversation," just like that. And so it was a young lady. When I went across to the other courtroom, she was visibly irritated when I said it. Also, she was very red and visibly irritated when I went to the next court. It's almost like a Karen that you would find on some of these social media videos. It was the exact same thing. She became a Karen, and just like as soon as I stepped foot in the court, she started saying, "Your Honor, this is the so-called father. I don't know who this man is, but he needs to take a DNA test. He needs to take a psychological evaluation. He needs to take a weekly drug test. He needs to take parenting class. He needs to do XYZ. Go to, I mean, everything under the sun." So, for no reason at all, I never had a conversation with this lady. I never, um, I never had any type of dealings with the lady. No report with CPS. No report whatsoever. Never have I posed a harm or threat to my children. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it all arose, where they gave me all these conditions, which would take every bit from 6 months to a year just to complete at the bare minimum. So it took 6 months just to schedule the parent class because it took 3 months for the class to become available. It took 3 months to complete it. And also, it took about 3 months just to get the DNA scheduled and to get that done. So, in no way, shape, or form was it a reasonable, plan for me to be reunified with the children. They actually kept the children stifled in care and prevented me from being a father and only allowed me access to my children for 60 minutes every week. And so I like to tell people all
Right.
the time it's 168 hours in a week, and I'm only allowed 60 minutes with my children every week, and for no other
60
reason,
minutes.
no reason whatsoever.
That's right.
Like I say, I'm not never been found guilty for any crimes or never posed or presented a threat or harm or not in the best interest to my children. Never
Mm-hmm.
had a report with CPS. Always kept adequate income and housing. Always been there for my children from day one. I mean, it's sad. It's just it's sad.
Hmm. Well, unfortunately, this is the case around the country. I do have another comrade and friend of mine who's experiencing the same thing in another state where CPS is falsely accusing you of not being a good parent. And even when you comply 100% with their demands, they still don't give you your children back. Because we do know that they're using our children just as they did in slavery days. They're making money off them. Long as they are in state custody, there's a certain amount of money that's allocated per child to remain in state custody. Correct?
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things
Mm-hmm.
I pointed out in my lawsuit, that they're abusing Title IV funding, and what they do is they keep kids stifled in care. They find all types of reasons, and this has been a historic thing that they've done in D.C. and across America, dealing with minorities and dealing with like I'm Muslim, so 3, 4 times throughout the case she had mentioned to the court as if it was some type of crime that, hey, this guy's Muslim, um, they believes they believe in Islam, and she just mentioned me being Muslim and asked me on the stand, like, what type of Islam do I practice? And to the point where the judge had to ask her, what relevance did that make? Also, she attempted to go back into my past about 20 years ago for possession of marijuana and stuff like that. Also, the judge asked her, what relevance was that making? And this is the same judge that I had a conversation with, because I've seen that he had some of the same concerns that I may have had. That's why I asked him for clarification. And this is the same lady that came back and said, "Oh, you need to come to the next room. This court hearing is over." It just blatantly, rudely interrupted in my conversation, if we was some, as if I was some type of criminal or something like that. And so it's just really sad that um, everyone in the case have admitted to me personally, or that what they're doing is not right, but they have not been willing to step up and use their authority or risk their position or authority to speak up on my behalf or my children's behalf. So that forced me to kind of like separate ties with all of the court appointed lawyers and all of the court appointed representation that they give, because they were fighting with me, not fighting for me, and I'm telling them what to do and how to do, and they refuse to do it. And I have to speak up sometimes. And I have to speak up sometimes just to, I had to speak up plenty of times and represent myself to the point where I had to get rid of 6 court-appointed lawyers. The judge refused to allow me to represent myself, because when I spoke on my kids' issues, I spoke with a certain passion. I spoke with a certain amount of authority. I spoke on the points that were valid on case law, and even challenged and brought up some of the areas of law that were contradictory to what's going on. Like, for example, it's no reason that a family should be separated from another family member if they live with that family member for one or more years, or if they live with that family member within the last year prior to them being taken in care, should I say, they have the right. The children have the right, rather than being stifled in foster care, to be with that relative. And in my case, me and the mother was separated. So my children should have been returned back to me and placed back in their home, where everything would have been properly taken care of. They had their own living space. They had their own rooms. They had ample space. Like, my house is big enough. So now that I'm involved with the case, instead of refusing the children to come home with me, they involve me in the case. I'm the only one in this area that has ample living space. My other relatives either refused to help, didn't want to help, couldn't help, or didn't have ample living space, or wouldn't pass through whatever due diligence that the government put them through. But what I'm saying is that I have a 4 or 5 bedroom house with my children. I only need like 3 of those bedrooms. The rest, I have plenty of space. In other words, so now by them not giving me my children and making me fight this case, uh, a neglect case that I'm not involved in the petition. It simply explains how the mom went to the hospital, how the mom had to receive medical attention, and how the children could not stay in the hospital. Had nothing to do with me. The only incident that happened was that a verbal disagreement with a Caucasian lady that I'm speaking about. And she just turned into a Karen and went to the judge, and without any warning, without any conversation, just beat red with anger because she felt that I maybe disrespected her or maybe stepped out of my boundary by asking her to remove herself from our conversation, began to ask the court for all types of stringent, unrealistic, what you would call restrictions before you can get your child. So before you can even get your children back in your home, you need to take a DNA test and you need to go do a psychological evaluation. You need to take a drug test. You need to go to the parenting class. You need to go to individual therapy. You need to. I mean, all of these things is totally ridiculous. It's illegal. And so, based on Rule 7 in our local state in DC, in Washington, DC, that they have to, if it's a parent, but one parent is on the report, such as in my case, one parent is on the report and the other parent is not on the report, then what happens is that they have to do a report on both parents. If they don't have evidence on both parents, then they need to have separate conditions for both parents. Ever since this incident happened, um, the children's mother has been unable to respond to any of their requests or whatever. So I have been the only one coming to the court hearings and everything like that. Rather than give me my children, they get me involved in the neglect complaint and the petition that brought this case in the care, ultimately violating my children's rights and my rights. Because local rules and local laws are put in place so that children won't be left in care, stifled in care. And so the laws that work for some of us work for all of us. But if someone
Right.
doesn't want those laws to work for whatever reason, they know what to do and how to word things and how to advocate for things. And that's what exactly what happened. And everyone, rather than that knows how to stop what's going on, rather than to speak up, they have a go along to get along type of mentality where they don't want
Right.
to. They told me, the lawyers told me, said some of them told me, I don't want to risk my job. I don't want to, put too many waves in the water and stuff like everything under the sun. And so,
Okay. Then
unfortunately,
some
this is where we at. And so now I
one more
have
thing.
in 30 days to get
Okay.
these children out of care because if they're not out of care within the next 30 days, now they're trying to change the goal. And so, I have to make moves because unfortunately I don't have family in this area that can help me. That's I don't have a strong family support network. So everyone that I tried to get the kids released to, they denied. They said they'll only let the kids go to family members. And from the day one, I tried to get them out, and when I couldn't try to get them out, I went directly to family members, and the family members I know that was in the best position to help, and I was unsuccessful in trying to gain successful family support. So when they seen that,
Mm,
they just used that as a foundation to build on,
catalyst. Yeah.
as a catalyst to
Okay.
build on. So instead of helping me
Mm,
as an underserved family because we don't have family in the area, they started to prey on us and say, hey,
mm,
yeah, we're going to keep your kids in the care until you develop some type of, till your family want to come in and help. In other words, and so it's
mm.
kind of like this.
So basically, your kids are being held up in the system, even though you can provide a home, food, and shelter and clothing for them, to benefit the system. It's not benefiting the children or the families, but it's benefiting the system to have another displaced family in the custody of the oppressors. That's
Absolutely,
basically what we're dealing with. So this
absolutely,
is
and
no
more
more than
importantly,
a what is the amendment that we were finding out, we were researching
well,
about
it's the
what
14th
they're doing.
Amendment that actually being violated because when you
Right.
have a state
Okay.
actor that uses the law or doesn't or that maybe they suppress a law or maybe don't apply a law that would save these children from being stifled in care, and they went around that law and then apply different laws to put the children in care, that would be a civil rights violation of the 14th Amendment. Because, like, if it's a state actor and then it's a civil right, a right, local right, or a civil federal right that they have suppressed or kept from you, then that's kind of like a 14th Amendment violation. So that's I have a $10 million federal lawsuit against the government. And since I have filed my lawsuit, they only increased the pressure, to try to the point now they're saying that I have 30, less than about 40 days that I have to get a relative or a family member or someone, if it's a friend, if someone that has to be licensed with a license from the agency. And it has to happen within the next 30 days, because if it doesn't, then I'm going to be on the line, or I'm not on the line, but they're going to try to put these children up for adoption. And it's sad. Like, it's like, and I'm sitting here in court. They're blaming me for the whole time that these children been in court. So it's a double-bladed sword. You go to fight. If you went to just not show up in court, then they say you abandon them. If you show up to court, then they put you on the timeline, where so you have to have the court. I completed the case plan, should I say? So the case plan is entirely complete, and that's that. So I mean, I don't have anything to do in terms of all of the recommendations that they put. I'm just waiting for them to. They just twiddling in their thumbs, not doing anything. Just like literally like keeping these kids stifled in care. And it's like at this point, I need emergency funding so we can put together the family support resources and structures that's needed, and or I need you know so I need relative that can step up
You
and
need
then
so
the
you
relative
so
I do have
basically
that's
this
willing to
is
step up that's not in the area. They
right.
they told me that they wouldn't accept that. They had to have somebody in the area, because I wanted to send
Yeah.
them to a relative that's out of state, but they said that
Mm.
that's not going to work.
Well, that my family went through a similar situation like this back 20 years, 25, 30 years ago with my sister. I'm not going to talk about her situation, but um, basically they would not allow us, because we lived in South Carolina, to take my nephew and my niece away from the foster parents that they had here in Washington D.C. They didn't want to leave. They didn't want them to leave the system, basically. So they, even though they had blood relatives, that were willing to take them on, they didn't want to move them around. They refused to release them to another family member.
Yeah,
So
we
basically, we're making an appeal to the community that we live in. Anybody that can help us with this case, anybody that's an advocate for victims of CPS that have went through the similar situations where they're keeping children away from their fathers and keeping families from uniting. This is something that's been happening for years and years and years, and families are suffering behind this. The children are suffering. They have not seen their dad or their mom in almost 2 years going on, and they're putting the dad through hoop loops. He's jumping through hurdles. I've witnessed it myself for the last 2 years. We've been business partners and friends, and he's been struggling ever since what 2018, 19. How long has it been? It's been a while to regain custody of his children. So this is a father's plea, and we just send this out to you. He does have a GoFundMe that we have information on that we can share. You ready to get back on? Yeah.
yeah, but
Okay.
I'm trying to. I'm having some difficulty with the camera. One second, give me 1 second.
Okay. All
But
right. Let me
basically,
take you out.
we also we have a GoFundMe campaign. We also have an emergency fundraiser campaign that we doing on the ground also. So we doing things on the ground, off the ground, and the objective is to create a home for children like in underserved families like myself, not just for my family, but a home, a program that will be able to serve both food, clothing, shelter, educational services, everything that would be necessary to get families and underserved families that would, been traumatized from trying to reunify, et cetera, do what they have to do. The things that they have to go through, and And without the support, without those necessary support mechanisms, it makes it almost impossible. Like right now, I'm running a
Mhm.
business, I'm traveling. It's not necessarily the time that's a problem, but necessarily like just the whole lifestyle change and the support units that you have to develop in terms of putting the children in school, um, getting your kids the type of counseling services and the type of things that they need to even understand what they're going through. Like every day, when I talk to my children, like every chance I get to talk to my children, I let them know, like, hey, daddy's at work. As soon as daddy comes from work, I'm coming to get you. They don't
Mhm.
even know that they in care in case someone
Right.
tells them, So it's not that we not doing the best that we can. We don't have a
Mhm.
system that is working with us, and it almost seems, it's not almost seems, it's actually targeted, and it's actually a purposeful thing. It's not something that's happening by circumstance or happenstance, and it's just, oh, I'm pleading, letting people know what's going on. This is a
Right.
targeted thing. This is something that's organized. This is something that they want to happen and they want to continue to happen. I know when I've seen people go through similar situations, I thought to myself, man, what would these people, if anything, what did they have to do with it? And in this case, I'm just a black father that came to pick up my kids one day from hearing that the mom was in the hospital, and then I was refused to get my children. And then instead of giving legal reasons why I couldn't get them, they started to talk about any and everything, poking and prodding about things that would make you anyone just go off and be like, hey, what is the whole purpose of this? Like if I came to pick up
Mhm.
my children from the hospital, then why are you asking me for a DNA test? Why are you
Right.
asking me for to go to parenting class? Why would you be talking about? And I never met these people. Never had a conversation for 5 minutes with any of these people who would
So
recommend any
it's
of that. I don't have a criminal record that would suggest that I need any of that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm responsible. I'm not looking for work. I'm not on public assistance. I'm not on anything. So why would I
mhm.
even need like to go to a psychological evaluation? What will prove that I needed to go to parenting class? Well, so
Right.
they automatically would know that this stuff, if I recommend this, this would take X amount of time for the person to even get their child back. They definitely not gonna get them back today. So that's the way things
Mhm.
work. So if the laws are designed to keep children out of care and to keep children with the families, then if you have people that are race soldiers and people with ingenuous intentions that are working
Now,
under the color of
tell
law, then what they would do is they would purposely try to find loopholes and things in the law where they can erode your rights, where they can take the
mhm.
opportunity to take freedoms away from you, where they can enslave you, and where they can literally make you work for them and then threaten to separate you if the work is not done or not. Just like in slavery, if they brought you to a plantation, if you didn't pick the cotton, you didn't you didn't stay there. Your family didn't stay together. You were separated. You were sold one place and they were sold another place. If you didn't do the
Right.
work, they was threatening, work. And if for freedom, like if you didn't do what you was told, then you will be shipped somewhere and the family be shipped somewhere else. And so that's the
Mhm.
same thing as you getting in the accident and then you having to go to the hospital. Your children was in the car with you, and then when your black male husband gets there, they say, "Hey, we don't know who you are. We should take a DNA test. Matter of fact, you should go to parenting class. Matter of fact, you should take a psychological evaluation. How will we be responsible just to let these kids go with you and we don't even know who you are?" So if you
Mhm.
don't know your rights, which I didn't know at the time, that I knew it was unconstitutional and illegal in some type of way, but I didn't know exactly what laws and what constitutional rights were violated. And so what I did know that it was wrong. So I spoke out and I spoke out to the judge and I said, I don't think this is even appropriate. But at this point, when you have a Karen that's sitting up there literally expressing herself to the judge as if she's some type of hero, like that saved children, and in order to keep these children safe, I think we don't know who this man is.
And so it's almost like a feminist type of energy, a prejudice type of energy,
Right.
a racist type energy. And you have black people that'll sit right there, and you have black people
Yeah.
that'll sit right here and hear this interview, and still in the back of their mind, justified for one reason or another because they have been intellectually or physically buck broken themselves to thinking and that it's appropriate for you to put these type of conditions on a father or a black father in particular. If you want your children back, then do what they say. But if you do that, then you go down a road of starting a process where it takes months for you to even get your children back when when you were entitled to have your children back the same day. That's a civil right. You're entitled to, to have your property, your possessions, your children, your family, and no one can take that or remove you away from them without proving you to be a harm or have broken some type of law or be a risk to the best interest of the children. And so for them to try to insinuate that these type of conditions need to be, applied, I can see if I was on the petition. I can see if it was any paperwork against me, if it was any reports against me, if it was my address that the children was taken from. If I was at the location that the children were taken from, if I didn't come to the hospital, if I didn't answer the phone, whatever the case may be, I can see if that was the case. But upon me, as soon as I got information that these kids needed to be picked up, I was there. And I just never had any notice from the government. And it's just like the government is violating the children's law, ta- I said violating the children's law, but violating the children's civil rights and my civil rights by taking these children and keeping them stifled in foster care and refuse them to reunite them with their family, which would be me in this case, because all of the other
Mhm.
relatives, we don't have a lot of relatives in this area. The mom, they refused to release the children to any of her relatives because they didn't have any living space. They only had a lot of adequate living space for themselves. So
Mhm.
my living space was adequate. The social workers went out, checked my place, already approved my place, and said I had adequate living space. So that's not a problem. The problem is that you had a lawyer on behalf of the CPS that's basically operating as a white supremacist under the color of law, and that's the problem.
Mhm.
And when she's doing this, what she's doing is she's keeping these kids stifled in care. She's actually making me out as a black father to be some type of criminal, and making me out as some type of a Muslim, to be a Muslim. That's some type of criminal act within itself. Making me out to have to
Yes.
prove myself for no other reason than that would just keep the kids stifled in care, and that would keep them drawing entitled for funding. So I forgot to remind you that the day that they removed the children out of the hospital, they placed them in another state. So we're in Washington D.C. They moved the children to Maryland the same day that they took the kids out of the hospital. They took them straight to a non-governmental organization um, in Maryland. So they actually not even in the D.C. government. They're not in the D.C. government care. They're in a government contractor, which is a NGO, a nonprofit called NCCF, and they just give you piss poor performance. They are like mercenaries, where they don't do anything according to the law. They do everything about word of mouth, and they don't give you any type of services or, like, for example, I'm still only seeing my children for 1 hour a week, and it's up to NCCF to give me more visitation. And even though I completed everything that the case plan had that they told me to do in the case plan, they still haven't adjusted my visitation at all. And so this is the type of stuff that go on. And then when I go to the court and I complain, I'm I'm reprimanded for complaining about the services they so called offering and whatever the case may be, and I'm seen as the problem for complaining about what's clearly evident.
Okay, family. Now this is what I wanted you to stress. Um, is the fact that because you are a Muslim American and you do practice Islam, that they are saying that you're mistreating your children.
Nah,
Is that what was
no,
that
they never
fair,
said that.
or they
They
never
never
said
said
that?
that. They try to say the fact that I'm a Muslim American is the reason. They said they don't say any of that. They mention the fact that I'm Muslim as if it's a problem, if it's a
It's a
crime.
crime. That's what I was saying. That's what I'm trying to get to. You got to stress that to the people. They're being racist.
Yeah, pretty
They're
much. The
they're
whole thing is
discriminating
racist.
against you because of your
The whole thing is
beliefs.
racist, sister. Like that's why the whole
Mhm.
thing that I had. The whole thing is just pure racist. They just used to. I don't know, people thinking that it's acceptable and trying to work within their system. I could say the most important thing about my situation is that when they seen that I didn't have a strong family support unit um, when the case first came into care, where the children can just go to a relative while me and the mom sort it out and care. That's kind of like what
Mhm.
made them think that, hey, we can just keep them in this position, and that's kind of like what
Keep the
happened.
children
Even though
in
I reached out
limbo.
to relatives, I reached out to them several times. It's kind of like you know, uh, some of them, it's just sad, man. It's really sad. It, I
Yes, it
mean,
is. It's very sad, but we can't waste time being sad because, like you said, you on a time limit. So we are appealing, like you said, we
I
have to
mean,
appeal to the masses to get some kind of help or
I mean,
aid
whoever can help can
for
help. I mean,
you.
it's pretty straightforward. Like, but the problem with that I seen with the black community when it comes to this type of stuff, I mean, like what I'm saying is sad, but if anybody can help, help. Like you see what I'm saying. If you have legal resources, if you want to can contribute, then contribute. But other than that, it's really nothing else to do but to either contribute one way or another. Like we have a GoFundMe campaign that's coming up. You could, if you want to reach out to us through Cash App or something like that, Danae, if you could put the information down below or reach out to us through Black Business Matters. But either can
What's your
contribute
cash out?
with a cash contribution or either donate your time and resources to Equal Justice Project. Because basically we going about doing what needs to be done at this point. And so, it's not really too much to really like. It's nothing I can do to, if you can't see what the need is at this point, then I mean, hey, just pass the video to someone who can do something or can help. Because at this point, it's not about like begging and whining and crying. It's about establishing solutions and coming up with long term answers to the problem and addressing the problem and moving forward. And those who that want to be a part of the solution, and they should join us at Equal Justice Project and join us through Black Business Matters and things like that. We will have a if I knew ahead of time, I would have had to go fund me information up and stuff like that. But we'll give updates on that. I mean, but definitely it's
Well,
going to
we're
be.
gonna post that information on this live, and again, you can we gonna post that information on this live, and you can email us at blackbusinessmatters@gmail.com for more information. Please share this live, share the information. Let's get the word out about this family that needs us. Because time is of the essence. That's what I'm saying. It's time limit on here. And the longer it takes, the more time you away from your children. And they can, and there's no telling what they're going through or what they're experiencing at this point. So somebody has got to step up to the plate and help assist us in this matter. So if it's you, please inbox me or email us at blackbusinessmatters@gmail.com. So if it's anything further, Mr. Urquhart, you want to continue,
I mean, no, I
close
mean,
out?
pretty much. I mean, pretty much just do what you think is right. I mean, don't think that what happened to me won't happen to you. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's all I can tell you, man. Like, I mean, you see what's going on with me. If you think it's a game, if you think it's some type of you know happenstance or that's me or my problem, then that's what it is. But at the end of the day, just do what you gotta do, and make sure you take care of your family. Make sure that you spend time with your family, and you make sure that you keep a strong family bond and a family unit, because when things like this happen, you want to be around those who really have your best interest at heart, and not you know not in a situation where you ever need the government to really help you, because they're not going to do that. They're going to take that opportunity to destroy you, or to divide you up, or to
Mhm.
process you in one way or another. And so, rather than looking for help from government or anything like that, just build your family, build your family structure, build your friends and support networks, because you never know when you will need them. And like in times like now, you know what I'm saying, with me, in other words, like, I mean, this is when you need those type of people and those type of structures the most. So that's
Right.
all I really had to say about the situation. I really, other than that, I mean, it's just work to be done.
Right. Okay. So we're going to show a little video to give you a heads up about the disproportionate numbers of black kids in foster care. So check this out, and we're going to close out at the end of this video. Again, if you can help, please leave your information or inbox Mr. Urquhart, and we will get back with you. This has been the Black Power Moment, justice for the Earhart family. And just remember that this could happen to you, like the brother said. Nobody is exempt from this oppressor's hand. So peace and black power, and hopefully this is going to show, and then we're going to end the show out. We're going to take a little break. Black power.
From WRAL News, this is Focal Point. Why has this young woman spent so much of her life in foster care?
Just because mom's drug habits, I guess.
And why are so many black children in our state's foster care system?
An African American child is about 3 or 4 times more likely to be reported to us by the public than a white child.
Is that because
I don't know why it's